Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Epsilon 9 Drowns Out No Man's Sky. I'm still talking about Persona 5. Specifically, I'm still talking about the characters. Little things I forgot to mention last time, such as about Akira Kurusu, the main character of P5. So glad someone pointed this out to me. I don't think it's quite as evident that this is the case in P5. I know it was in P4, where the canon personality of Yu Narukami was always the third option, which indicated that Yu Narukami in P4 was a bit of a weirdo. Apparently, the true personality of Akira Kurusu is allegedly scumbag criminal who flirts with all the ladies and comes out with the best sarcastic remarks. There's a lot of remarks that Akira makes that I just laugh so hard at. Like, my personal favorite by a mile is when a particular character says, "You know, I'm beginning to feel in love wherever I go." To which you can respond with, "Oh, so it's not just here then." Oh, go F that character. That guy totally had it coming. I love Akira. I love Akira. I love the sarcastic remarks that you can get, especially the joke answers to some of the questions that the teachers ask. This is a picture of King Kamehameha. What's he holding in his hand? A Dragon Ball? What's the phenomenon where it looks like, the second hand isn't moving? The world! If the students in the class don't get that they're not true Japanese students. Or they're huge nerds. Makoto, still love her, still the best girl. I'm happy that she's the canon relationship in the manga. I hope she wants to be in the canon relationship in the anime. The webcomic, she acts crazy, which just makes her hotter. And she will be the character who I pursue a romantic relationship with on my second playthrough. And unlike P4, the original, you can't get away with sleeping with all the girls with no negative repercussions. You could get away with it in the original P4 because you didn't get to Valentine's Day. In P4G, you did get to Valentine's Day, and if you were dating multiple girls, all the girls show up at the same time, and then you have to break up with the ones who you don't actually want to hang out with, and that's kind of heartbreaking. I kind of prefer the P5 example, where if you're dating multiple girls, all of them show up on Valentine's Day, and they beat the crap out of you. Well, I watched that on YouTube. Oh, that was great! You just lying on the cafe floor, beaten and bloody, like, oh god, I gotta drag my crippled body down the street to the doctor's office. Oh crap, the doctor's one of the girls I was cheating on. But So, yeah, skipping over Makoto, who's the best girl. I could just talk about her for so freaking long. On the opposite end of the spectrum, you have An. Now, I'm skipping over Ryuji and Morgana for a minute, because why do people like An? I don't get it. The thing is, like, yeah, she's relatively down to earth, and the thing is, like, her personality is that she's a bit of an airhead, but the thing is, like, her airheadedness never comes across really in the main story. You only ever see that if you do her social link. Because you can't really say that she's the ditzy, not all there one, because that's what Ryuji's for. Ryuji's the idiot in the main story. She seems like rather intelligent when compared to that moron. There's just nothing to her character, really. I mean, she's just doing the modeling thing as a hobby until she, like, I want to become stronger, so I'm gonna actually try and become, like, the best model. And I have a lot of respect for the villains, because the villains always get beat down, but they keep trying. I'm like, you're kind of dumb, aren't you? Also, her character design's kind of boring, too, with pale skin and blonde hair. It's like, yeah, well, she's mostly a foreigner. That's why she's better at speaking English than the rest of the group. It's like, yeah, but it's like, she's vanilla. And not even like a good, flavorful vanilla. It's like she's just flavorless ice, really. There's nothing to really sink your teeth into on her character. It's like, yeah, she's also like, she likes cracking the whip at people. It's like, well, not really. I mean, she feels a little off about that. I mean, if we're going to go into, like, the more sadistic characters, you got Haru, who's, like, the closet sadist, which you get a lot of that on, and, like, Makoto's got a little bit of that, too. The only person who ever, like, really explained to me why they like Ann, more like why they prefer Ann over the others, is because all the others had, like, these dour moments where they were, like, all deep and depressing and melodramatic, which is a little bit harsh on those guys, but yeah, but Ann didn't have that. I'm like, yeah, she didn't have that, but that's a reason why you prefer her over to the others. That's not a reason why you like her. You like her because she doesn't have that. If she doesn't have that negative thing which you don't like, but she also doesn't have anything to like about her. There's nothing to her. There's no substance really to her character, and I'm hoping someone can properly explain to me what it is about her that anyone likes. Because generally, I love the cast of P4. I really do. And I prefer the story of P4 to the story of P5, but generally, overall, I like the main core cast of P5 more than the core cast of P4, even though there's nothing stopping me, and I'll probably go back and play P4G like a couple more times during the course of my life. The best characters in the core party of P5 are better than the best characters in the core party of P4. But I'm putting her on the same freaking level as Teddy. And the thing is, I don't like Teddy because of all the stupid bear puns and the stupid crap that he does in that course of that game. But at least I have something to bitch about with Teddy. There's nothing to her. I would prefer her more if there was something I could really bitch about with her, but there's nothing. And that's the only thing I can really bitch about. Ugh. She also uses the submachine gun, the whip, which also, nah. At least she's not my least favorite code-named character on that one. Panther, I don't really have a problem with. I don't have strong feelings with it either. Jesus Christ, her codename's perfect for her, because the thing is, like, yeah, I don't have strong feelings for it, but I don't dislike it either. Ugh. Joker, Batman's kind of ruined the name for me, because every time I hear Joker, obviously, I think about the Batman villain, and that just upsets me, because can we get more stories with somebody else from Batman's Rogues Gallery besides Joker? I understand that you can tell, like, some of the most compelling stories with him, but the fact is, nobody has the balls to write a story about Mr. Freeze, or you can do Poison Ivy, and yeah, Scarecrow, I was the next guy who I was going to mention, but I thought, people have also done Scarecrows. Like, who's the next most common guy after Joker? It's got to be like a tie between Scarecrow and probably Ra's al Ghul. There are other better characters you can do stories about in Batman, but I'm not talking about Batman, I'm talking about Persona 5. So my way that I get through the characters calling him Joker is I do like the reason Morgana gives to call him Joker, because he's the trump card. But really, he's the wild card. He's the guy who has the power of the wild card, which means that he has multiple personas, while the other guys only have the one. Also, because I'm a huge fan of Kamen Rider W, every time I hear someone call him Joker, I just say, Joker! Kind of appropriate, because Morgana's Cyclone. Eh? Yeah. Ooh, would that make, Makoto Kamen Rider Excel? I watched a lot of Kamen Rider W. I still don't know if that's a good show. I enjoyed it, but So, talking about Ann, there's not a lot to talk about. Akira, talked about him. There's more to frickin' Akira, the so-called silent protagonist, than there is to Ann! Also, hop on and, like, listen to some of Akira's voice quotes. That guy has a lot of quotes in the game. Whoever did his voice, I really should know his voice, because he did a really, really good job with them. I love the voices. I love the fact that his personality comes across so much in the voice lines. I'm happy that, unlike P4, they didn't just, like, because in P4 you really did never talk. So they just had, like, one of the other voice actors do his voice, and so when it came time to do the anime and for you to actually talk on a regular basis, his voice is pretty much just like the other guys, and that's a little jarring. The last thing I'll say about Ann real quick is, she's one of those occasions, this happens way too freaking often, where her original concept design was a lot better than what we ended up with. Her original concept design was just the Ann we came up with, but her hair is not up in the pigtails. It's just long and flowing freely, which I think fits her personality, or lack thereof, a little bit better, because, yeah, she's not really the cutesy girly girl. She's a little bit more mature than some of the other members, while at the same time still, like, a little lighthearted. And I think that the long flowing hair would actually be a better fit for the so-called sexy character that she is. I have an easier time seeing her, the long flowing version of her being a model, as opposed to the one who has her hair in pigtails. Also, little weird that she's just the frickin' sex appeal character, because Morgana has a very blatant crush on her. Yusuke clearly thinks she's hot. Ryuji, even though he says a couple times throughout the game that he has no romantic interest in her, he still, like, takes a peek at her at some point, such as trying to look at her butt or, like, ogling her when she's in the swimsuit. Really, the only character who may or may not have an interest in her is Akira, the main character, and that's entirely up to you. Either you date her, in which case all 4 male characters have the hots for her, or you choose not to, in which case 3 out of the 4 do. Somebody on the team had a real love affair with Ann, and that's why they're, like, pushing her super hard. Okay, done with talking about Ann. I'll probably talk about Kira later, because there's a lot to talk about with him. Love that guy. Finally, let's talk about with Ryuji. Ryuji is like, he's supposed to take over the position of the bro, which I think Sojiro actually does that a little bit better. Hell, I think Yusuke does the better version of the bro, even though he's like the farthest thing from a bro you could probably get. I like Ryuji enough, but goddamn, he's a moron. The thing that got me the most was, man, it's sure great being a Phantom Thief! He yells that so frickin' often. Well, some variation of that, and, like, it was frustrating, but I put that on the same stupid line as the kids from P4 who are investigating the murders in public, and, like, no one ever raises an eyebrow at it, so I was like, okay, I guess that's just, like, poor writing, or, like, let's use some of the other, like, settings that we have access to, as opposed to always doing it in the main character's room, which, yeah, you probably shouldn't do because his uncle's a frickin' detective. Props to Dojima for figuring out that the kids actually had something to do with it, even though really... Because that's the reason why he never pursued him, is because he had no hard evidence, but yet his detective instinct was still able to figure it out. That means he's a good detective. So anyway, with Ryuji shutting that out, so I figured that it wasn't gonna, like, be a plot point. I figured it was just him expressing his joy, and we're just gonna gloss over the fact that he's yelling out that they're the Phantom Thieves in public. And then Makoto, before she joins the crew, starts investigating the crew, figures out that you're the Phantom Thieves. Apparently, she figured out you're the Phantom Thieves because she recorded Ryuji saying it, the moron. And the thing is, like, it was never actually clear. It was just vague enough, the recording, that if Akira is half as good as you set him up to be, he could have talked his way out of it. And then Ryuji calls you. You don't even put him on speakerphone, probably. He's probably just shouting loud enough that he might as well be on speakerphone. Hey, buddy, you want to come over to the mall or whatever and talk about Phantom Thief business? Because we're Phantom Thieves! And because he's screaming that, Makoto heard it over the phone. Wow, buddy! Thanks! You built the coffin and you dug the hole for us! You asshole! And you call him out on it later, and Ann shares half the blame because even though she doesn't say anything about them being Phantom Thieves in the particular recording that Makoto had, she's still featured on it, and so she wants to get shuffling half the blame. I'm like, no, Ryuji, this is you. If you didn't say the term Phantom Thief, we wouldn't be in this situation right now. Oh, by the way, I'm curious as to what anyone else who played P5, what you named your Phantom Thief group. I went with Kamen Raiders, which just barely fit, because I'm a huge fan of Kamen Riders. Kamen means mask, and all the guys wear masks, and we don't ride into any place, but we do raid the palaces, so we're Kamen Raiders. Yeah, anyway, so after that whole situation, you would think that Ryuji would learn from it. He doesn't, because one of the next ones, when you're at a sushi restaurant, and Yusuke's like, wow, this is really good sushi, and then Ryuji just yells out, well, just one of the perks of being a Phantom Thief! And everyone in the restaurant just turns and looks at us like, why can't I punch him upside the head? Why is the game not giving me that option? It's crap like that is why I didn't really side with him too much when him and Morgana were going at it. But then again, I didn't side with Morgana either. I kind of appreciated Morgana. I appreciated him a little bit more than I did with Teddy. Which, I appreciated the androgynous voice. Allowed me to pretend that he was a girl at some points. I'm also glad that they addressed that in the game. Where they just straight out ask him, it's like, hey, are you a boy or a girl? It's really hard to tell with that voice of yours. And Ryuji comes up with the line like, maybe he smells like an old man. P5's got some great lines in it. I think, like, the whole deal with Morgana is, like, he's supposed to be on the far end of the spectrum from Teddy, where I'm not going to talk about their competency, because both of them are, like, I'd say equally competent, but in different ways. But the thing is, like, Teddy totally embraced the fact that he was a bear and was just constantly... Every sentence was another bear pun. But with Morgana, he doesn't even like to be referred to as a cat, even though both of his forms are that of a cat. Well, two of his forms are a cat. The third form's a frickin'... They call it a bus, but really it's more of a van. I don't know. People just associate cats with buses. My Neighbor Totoro. It's a good movie. Watch it. That, plus the JoJo references, the Dragon Ball Z references... The Death Note references. I love the references that this game makes. Also, you got the Sonic shoes in that. One of the items in the game are Sonic shoes. Allows you to run as fast as a hedgehog. Yeah, love it. So yeah, Ryuji and Morgana. I love the characters overall. They're my boys. They're a couple idiots at some points. Now, time for Yusuke. I like Yusuke, and I swear I thought I'd hate that guy, but damn, he's kind of like what the opposite with Kamoshida was. Like, when you first meet Kamoshida, it's like, yeah, he's kind of a douchebag, but it's like, is he really that evil, or is it just one of those things where it's like in the first game, where, like, you find a person who's, like, perfectly normal, but then you go and it's like, oh, this guy's got some, like, twisted thoughts going on in his head when you go inside his palace. Like, no, after the one girl commits suicide, it's like, no, that guy is very clearly evil douchebag. And he just stops hiding it at some point. With Yusuke, it's like, when he's defending Madarame, it's like, you're a sniveling little worm who's just trying to protect this guy who's very clearly evil. But then, like, after Yusuke, like, awakens his persona, it's like, okay, now he's a cool guy. Now he's a cool guy. He's a very eccentric, deadpan character. And I love some of the dialogue between him and Futaba, such as he cracks a stupid pun, and he's just waiting for Futaba's reaction, but she's like, no, that's too stupid for me to even touch on. Yeah, you know, if they come out with P5 the Crimson, I don't think that they will, because I think that the creators very expressly said we didn't want the main character to be female for whatever reason. Which I can understand. It's their work. If they don't want a female character as a possibility, that's totally fine. I kind of would have preferred it, if only because I've seen a couple, like, gender swaps versions of Akira, and they're kind of hot. And I don't know. It's... If you had the option of dating the male characters, I think most people would actually go for Yusuke. I probably wouldn't. I'd probably go a little more along the lines of Iwai, the guy who runs the airsoft shop. Mostly because he reminds me of Jason Statham. Might be a little bit of a double standard, because one of the things I liked about this one is that you could actually date the older women in the game. Which, that was something that upset me about P4, is because you had the one teacher who was clearly DTF, and you had the nurse who was... She was definitely flirting with you, and if you played your cards right, you may have gotten somewhere with her, even though she was it was very probable she was only flirting with you just because she liked the reaction and had no intention of going any further. And wouldn't you know it, like, two of the women, I should say, you can date in P5 are a teacher and a really hot doctor. Get to those in a minute. Gonna finish up real quick. So yeah, you had Futaba, which is a character who I kind of thought that they had her in just because she'd appeal to the fan base. It's like, oh, she's a computer person and she's a shut-in. Like, half of her dialogue is like video games and anime references. But no, she's actually a very well-written character with actual legitimate agoraphobia, and she's actually working to overcome that. And I'm like, wow, that is a lot more depth to that character than I thought you were going to do. A lot of very well-written depth to that character. Let's see. And I'll finish off talking about Haru. I liked Haru. I love that sweet little cinnamon roll. She's so freaking innocent. She is so adorable, but at the same time, she's got that little hint of a sadist. If you listen to her comments when you're traveling through Mementos, is like, there's some darkness in there, and that just makes her great. I think there's an image out there which I might not be able to find by the time this video gets edited and uploaded, where it's a picture of Haru saying, it's like, nothing's more powerful than love, except for a grenade launcher, because fuck you and everyone near you. Also great, because that's the gun that she uses. There's also another image where the character, Akira, like, puts his hands on the side of her face, and she gets all nervous and closes her eyes thinking that he's gonna kiss her, but then he just, like, moves his hands through her hair. He's like, it's so fluffy! So that's where I'm going to end this episode on. I'll catch you guys in the next one.